So before we get into the rest of the news today, I just wanted to show you one more thing that you can have in Ukraine that you cannot have in Russia. I was walking by this political protest here. Just one of the tools that any civilized nation, a democratic nation, uses to affect the political change, the incremental political change in most cases that that nation desires and wants to see for its future. And I started looking at all these political signs. People are making them. There's literally thousands of political signs here. And to contrast that to Russia, for example, each one of these signs that you see here being carried by these people, or whether it's on the ground here, after the protest, people set them down. They come here to protest for a while and then they leave, and they leave their sign here. But each one of these signs in Russia could get you up to 4 years in prison. You see? You see the difference? Some still don't understand the difference between Ukraine and Russia, but the chasm is vast. And as bad as things are for Russia's continued spiral into tyrannical despotism is nothing in comparison to the ongoing catastrophes now being inflicted by the good men and women of Ukraine's armed forces all across Russia. And last night was no exception. Once again, Ukrainian armed forces hammering logistics facilities as well as oil infrastructure, you name it. Another difficult morning for the savage Russian hell state as Ukraine hammers yet another logistics facility, Russia's fourth largest. It says fifth, but I found out about an hour after I posted this that it is indeed the fourth largest, this time in Ryazan. That's way out in Russia, below Moscow. Owned by the Wildberries company, this facility comprises 173,000 square meters. One of the most highly indebted companies in Russia, with at least 17.8 billion, will soon be forced into bankruptcy, a catastrophe for the Russian banking system. And I know you guys don't care about that. It is all about the burning Russian things. Yes, I see some of you out there. You just need the burning Russian things probably as badly as I do. We are addicts, and there is no 12-step program for this this affliction under which we labor daily. We just need it. You need your fix every day. I understand, and I am here for you. And thankfully, our dealer of choice is, of course, Ukraine's armed forces, who is just ever ready. I mean, sometimes we have to go 2-3 days without a fix, but I mean, you can always rest assured that they will indeed come through, and Ukrainian drones just freely traversing the airspace of Russia's hellish city of Ryazan. And as you can see, this is yet another burning Russian infrastructure facility, this time logistics. Wildberries, we found out today that it is the most indebted company in Russia. It's way more than 17.8 billion, according to some Russian media today. I mean, just crazy indebtedness. It's a low-margin business, huge targets. And, of course, you can see Ukraine's armed forces wasting no time in dismantling this very important piece of the Russian economy. Fires continue to spread at Russia's Wildberries logistics center in Ryazan, hours after Ukraine's drones of Russian liberation targeted the facility. And more shots of this burning Russian thing, ladies and gentlemen, just burning and burning. Burning. We're getting a little excited today, ladies and gentlemen. Things are just happening. We have a lot of things that are happening, not only on the international front as well. You guys probably know about that. The Zelensky meeting looks like things went very well over there in Washington. And and a number of other stories we will get into, but let's go ahead and cover the overnight strikes. And that's not just these Russian logistics facilities. It was an oil infrastructure facility there in Ryazan and one way out in Perm. I'll show you everything, including the maps. Footage of the burning Wildberries logistics hub in Ryazan. It's the same facility. The blaze is substantial, but has not yet engulfed the entire 173,000 square meter complex, and this is before the fires really got raging. It's now about almost 6 p.m. here in Kyiv, and things have been burning since about 9 a.m. So yeah, this place is toast. It's not going to be anything left of this. And just to give you some geographical context, ladies and gentlemen, here you are way out here in the savage and a lot of words we can't say on YouTube hinterlands of the savage Russian hell state. Way out here. It's just below Moscow, as you can see. Yes, Ryazan, way out there. And Ukraine's armed forces by no means satisfied with only hitting that. I'll show you the other targets that were manhandled last night as well. But let's go ahead and look at how the locals there in Ryazan are reacting to the fact that they have no air defenses. And you would think that 4.5 years into this genocidal invasion of a peaceful and much smarter neighboring nation, you would think that there would be some air defenses, right? I mean, by now they would have them, but Russians are just generally in shock today. Literally dozens and dozens of videos like this shot by the locals there in Ryazan, as well as Perm and other places I'll get into in a second. Ukrainian drones just now, I mean, it's like a pleasure cruise. Tipping the wing, and I mean, this is not a drone. Does this look like a drone that's in a hurry to get any place? No, no, this is a drone that is taunting. This is left tip, right tip, U-turn, circling these facilities several times to get the absolute perfect shot. I mean, just crazy things are happening. Russia has no air defenses. The most common comment, you guys, out of Ryazan residents today was, where the heck are the air defenses? Well, I can tell you where the air defenses are. The air defenses have been, the money for the air defenses have been accumulating in neighborhoods of London, like, I don't know, what's the most expensive areas of London? Mayfair, St. John's Wood, Knightsbridge is another one. Where else? I mean, Kensington, we know, ladies and gentlemen, where the money for the air defenses went. And as you can see, it was not into air defenses themselves. It was into luxury goods like Versace crocodile skin toilet seat covers for the apartments of mistresses in Paris. All those things. We know how the Russians work. And so just to get in further, what this whole campaign, Ukraine's ongoing 2 weeks, we're only 2 weeks into this campaign of destroying these Russian logistics facilities. You know, it is a massive hit on the economy, logistics itself. We know all about that, and we just recently learned about the banking angle. We know that it's one of the most indebted companies in Russia, at least 17.8 billion in outstanding debt, and this is going to be a bankrupt company over the next 2 months. Mark my words, this is going to be a bankrupt company. Ukraine's already destroyed 25% of these facilities. I'll get into more details about that in a second, but we haven't yet looked at the jobs losses. And today we got some information on that, leaving out the inventory losses in Ukraine's new campaign destroying Russia's logistics network and cost to rebuild. There are now already over 50,000 staff members that have lost their jobs. And these aren't the resellers. We know that we thought there were about 200,000 resellers that utilize the Wildberries platform, as Americans or other civilized nations use Amazon. You know, you can put your products on there, utilize their platform, utilize their logistics infrastructure. They'll house the products for you. And we know that those people are totally screwed. But we found out today that that's actually over 1 million people that are now affected by that. But let's talk now about the people that were working in these facilities. There's already 50,000, according to Russian media today. And Ukraine is only 2 weeks into this campaign with many more facilities to destroy. And just facility by facility, you can see how many employees were lost at each. This Shushari facility that was up in the Leningrad region, that's St. Petersburg, as well as this one. So 1,000 lost here, about 4,800 at this one, 12,500 at the big one there, second biggest in Moscow. They've yet to hit the biggest, 12,500 there, 9,000 jobs lost in Ryazan. But the biggest one here, Krasnodar, this was serving all of southern Russia. 17,500 employees now without jobs, you guys. I mean, so you can pretend this is not going to affect the Russian economy, but this is a very big deal. Another 5,000 at Novinomysk, and of course, it looks like 500 over there in Simferopol in Crimea. So it's not only the inventory that was lost. I mean, there was 1.2 billion in inventory just at this one Moscow facility, you guys. I mean, this is just... We are just every day we are finding out that the overall, the accumulated hit that the Russians are taking on these logistics facilities is just absolutely major. Oh, just a reminder, you guys, I've had this channel now for 1 year and 2 weeks, a little over 1 year and 2 weeks. And we just crossed 58,000 subscribers, and it is free to subscribe. If you guys can find it in your heart to tap that subscribe button, it really helps out on the reach on these videos. I would much appreciate it if you could do so. And two major targets were struck in Ryazan this morning. I already told you about the logistics facility, Wildberries, but it was also one of the largest oil refineries in Russia as well. This is the Ryazan Oil Refinery, processing 17.1 million tons of crude oil annually, and it wasn't that big of a hit, but I'm going to just include it today. A lot of times I'll leave these things out, but you can see it was indeed hit, and we found out from Ukraine's SBU that what was hit was very valuable, and it's the central processing facility of this refinery. So it is not one of the spectacular burning Russian things that many of you have grown accustomed to seeing on this channel, but it is indeed not going to be a pleasant experience for the Russians. And among the victims in today's early morning Ukrainian drone barrage across Russia is the Lukoil Perm refinery in Russia's Perm region. And I do believe that is a syllable record for this particular podcast, ladies and gentlemen. The previous record in terms of total accumulated syllables on one burning Russian oil infrastructure facility was 7. So this one, as you can see, is 8. Lukoil Perm. You guys can say it with me now. Perm. And it's really not that hard. You can break it down. Perm is the city, and neft is, of course, oil in Russian. And org, in this context, refers to organic in terms of chemistry, and syntez is like synthesize. So Perm refinery. And I know the other YouTube channels are going to butcher that, but here on this channel, we will not. And further detail on that. Built in 1958 and located 1,500 kilometers distance from Ukraine, this refinery is Russia's 7th largest, processing 230,000 barrels per day. Massive oil infrastructure facility. And when I show you where it is, that is the significant angle on this, because this is very, very far, right at the base of the Ural Mountains. As much of an assault on the language as, okay, I can skip this part. I just make fun of the fact that it's 8 syllables, the Lukoil Perm refinery. That's just a wild set of, well, it's an assault on human language, in my opinion. And as you can see, continuing to burn. And I'll show you some close-up shots of that in a second. For you guys, I know some of you connoisseurs out there, you're not satisfied with the distance view. I know you need the up-close and personal. Get right in there. I know how it is. Look, hey, there's no shame on this channel. We are, look, you guys, you are among friends. New from Perm, and here's another angle from this same burning Russian oil infrastructure facility. And we find out that what was hit there is known as the AVT-5 unit of this particular oil refinery. And when you see AVT-5, that refers to 5 means 5 million tons per year that it can process. So that is something it is not going to be doing anymore. It's not going to be processing anything anymore. 5 million tons. And the significance of this geographically is way out here. I mean, this is right at the base of the Ural Mountains. Previously impenetrable Ural Mountains. If you want to zoom right in there, you can get further geographic context on this. It's pretty close to Ekaterinburg, way out past Kazan. I mean, these are amazing. And we just got a note yesterday from Firepoint that new versions of some of these drones now have capabilities to hit targets out at 3,400 kilometers, you guys. You can do the math on that. It's like Texas to New York. I mean, it's just crazy. Crazy things are happening. And OSINT investigators came out a couple hours after this strike, just clarification, and confirming that this was indeed the AVT-5 unit at this particular Russian oil infrastructure facility. And Russia's fuel crisis continues to bleed into all other aspects of the economy, in this case, the agricultural industry. As you know, one of the major constituents of the Russian economy. In Chelyabinsk, Russian small farmers are having difficulties finding fuel, spending time waiting at gas stations instead of tending to their farms. They're asking for a system where they have guaranteed quotas for refueling at local gas stations. And Ukraine is now once again destroying refineries. They gave it about 2 weeks off where they started focusing on these logistics facilities. And it looks like now they're going to maintain a sort of 50-50 ratio, logistics facilities, oil refineries. So far, that's what we're seeing in the past few days. And this is a story from Chelyabinsk. And every episode of this channel now, I'm covering the agricultural industry. I mean, they are in big trouble right now because the price of grain has collapsed. I'm going to cover more of this in a second. And of course, the price of fuel has gone absolutely vertical, and there's no more money in this anymore. And the farmers are actually just letting the grain fall, and we'll let the rats have it. And so things are not going well there. And here's the headline from Chelyabinsk today. Chelyabinsk farmers are complaining of fuel shortages ahead of the harvest season. And it's not only Chelyabinsk, it is several areas of Russia. As you know, Rostov down there in the south on the Azov Sea, they've got a total gridlock now. The farmers can't sell their grain because there's no one to pick it up. So no one wants to commit to spending, X amount of dollars on a massive grain harvest when they're not even sure if there will be any way to export it. As now, Russia is completely blocked out of the Azov Sea, which, as you probably already know, was 20% of all Russia's grain exports. That's totally off now. And anyway, here's another one. An agricultural catastrophe continues to unfold in Russia with a collapse in grain prices due to logistics difficulties, now coinciding with a 300% rise in fuel prices, has many farmers abandoning crops rather than to spend money on harvesting. Russian media reporting that tens of thousands of farms are now at risk of bankruptcy. And you have to remember that all of these, if you checked, you know anything about the history of the Great Depression in the United States, for example, all of those farmers were in debt before the whole Dust Bowl came along, and that was why people were losing their farms, because the bank would come and confiscate as collateral. And now we have the same situation now unfolding in Russia. And here's a story from Russian media. Agriculture has found itself in a critical situation because of record low purchasing prices. Part of the harvest is cheaper to throw away than to gather. So it is cheaper just to let it. Why spend all the money on fuel and, of course, manpower? And you have to use all this equipment, and it's a long process, all to sell at a loss. So now many farms are just choosing to let the rats have it. Grain is simply being dumped on the ground, it says. The reason is simple. The cost of growing and harvesting the crop is already 3 times higher than its market price. Seeds, fertilizers, machinery, expensive fuel, and high-interest loans have long been paid for. You have to remember, when you get a loan in Russia, it's not like in the U.S. or England or Australia or anything. You have to understand that these rates for business loans can be over 20%. However, the revenue from selling the harvest doesn't cover even 40% of the costs incurred. If the situation doesn't change, we could be looking at the collapse of tens of thousands of farms, and a reduction in the number of producers inevitably means a rise in food prices. The Ministry of Economic Development is already warning in late August and early September, prices may change. This is being driven by diesel shortages, rising costs, drought, and difficulties with the harvest. According to forecasts, a loaf of bread could go up from 45 to 81 rubles, and a kilo of cooked sausage from 500 to 900 rubles. These are all problems that, most countries solved, 200 years ago. And Russia's just now, it's just again and again, the same thing over and over again. 1917 and 1990s, and now once again, the late 2020s. Further confirming the panic now seen among the Russian elite, co-founder of Ukraine's defense company Firepoint explains that the destruction of Russia's highly indebted logistics giant Wildberries will collapse the Russian banking system. And this was just a theory that I posited last week, I guess in the last video, about 3 or 4 days ago, that this whole campaign, Ukraine's campaign of hammering Russia's logistics infrastructure archipelago was really a hit in terms of hammering the Russian banking system, because all these companies, particularly Wildberries, it's apparently, we found out today that it is the most indebted company in Russia. So if you can destroy this company and have it declare bankruptcy, you now have a banking crisis. And that was according to this oligarch. I already covered this story right here. This is Oleg Deripaska, one of Putin's major oligarchs, one of the fresh faces he sends out into the world to own factories and all sorts of manner of malfeasance. And here he is right here, just going into what we thought, and now we know. Finishing off Wildberries and Ozon is a must. This will lead to a collapse of the banking system. And as you know, this is Stillerman. This is the co-founder of Firepoint, the maker of all these missiles, and he is privy to a lot of information, and he's definitely a good guy to listen to, as they are among the main borrowers. So these banks are on the hook, you guys. It's no longer a Wildberries problem, as Oleg Deripaska noted last week that we covered. This is a banking problem, because it's literally billions and billions. We know, confirmed, at least 17.8 billion just from this one Wildberries company, let alone Ozon, let alone everything else, all the debt that they've accumulated just in the past 6 months. We don't know about that. By the way, let's pause on this for a minute right now, he says. This is Gordon. This is one of the most famous Ukrainian TV shows, YouTube channels. He interviews a lot of people. We'll finish talking about Wildberries and Ozon. Why are we doing this, and what will happen next? Well, Wildberries is the biggest borrower in Russia, Stillerman says. And if we bring it down, it will inevitably lead to the collapse of a huge number of banks, mainly VTB, the second largest bank. I'll get into that in a second. That's where most of these loans, that's who most of these loans are owed to. VTB Bank, second largest bank in Russia. At the very least, VTB. VTB placed its entire bet on Wildberries. They are expecting to get this whole 70 million customer base of Wildberries. And VTB wasn't doing very well anyway. And now it's trillions of rubles in loans will irretrievably be lost, he says. And this could bring down the second largest bank in Russia. Genius move on the part of Ukraine. Just, I said it before, incredible stuff. And this needs to continue. Plus, it's a disruption of daily life there in Russia. Plus, it's a collapse of a huge tens of thousands of businesses which with their taxes support this army. So no more tax revenue from Wildberries, of course, will help out to support this madman, he means Putin, and cater to these imperial ambitions of Russia. And that's why it's a very, very important measure to take down Wildberries. An extremely important measure, Stillerman further says. So Ozon will follow Wildberries, right? It's Russia's second largest logistics archipelago company there. And he says, I think so. And he doesn't further elaborate after that. The video cuts off. But so yes, they are. I mean, so let's look at the third largest. That's Yandex. So they're going to go company by company. This is going to implode the Russian banking system, ladies and gentlemen. It's only a matter of time now. I mean, they have no air defenses. There's nothing to stop Ukraine from doing this. And these drones are cheap. It's going to cost Ukraine very little to take out all of these Russian banks. And three headlines that go together like vodka, orange juice, and Tabasco sauce for the Russian economy, as Russia's second largest bank is not only planning a rescue attempt of Wildberries, but laying off 10% of its staff and refusing depositors withdrawals to do it. And this is, of course, VTB Bank. This is Russia's second largest bank. And I'll start you with the inaugural headline here. So it appears that Russia, in conjunction with VTB Bank, probably at the point of the gun, is going to force VTB, the second largest bank in Russia, to bail out Wildberries, ladies and gentlemen, even as every 48 hours there is a new massive logistics infrastructure facility being taken out by Ukraine's armed forces that is owned by this company. So it's crazy. But Putin is going to, he's going to leave Russia with nothing. Russia explores support for Wildberries after Ukrainian drone attack. So this is going to be VTB pouring even more money into it. And let's look at this other one. So VTB also just coincidentally announces that it's going to lay off 10% of its workforce. And I'm sure that has nothing to do with having to initiate this massive bailout of their most highly indebted client. And another one, VTB has begun restricting cash withdrawals for individuals due to capital flow. So where's VTB going to get the money to initiate this inevitably failed bailout of Russia's most indebted company? Yes, it is going to fleece the depositors. It is going to fleece the depositors and, of course, lay off staff. So everything. If you could map this out yourself, I wouldn't change anything about the trajectory of where all this is going to go. You can put the pieces together for yourself. Russia's massive logistics archipelago company Wildberries now frantically searching for warehouse space in Kazakhstan. And oftentimes the remedies, the solutions from these Russians is often the most entertaining part of this ongoing collapse. Same as the solution to the loss of refineries, Putin is now forcing Russia to move its biggest revenue-producing industries outside Russia, bypassing the real economy. So they somehow think they're going to just move all these Wildberries facilities out to Kazakhstan, and then they're going to ship it all in. So ship it all from China, where most of this junk comes from, and then it'll be shipped from there as a mediator onto Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan is not going to want a huge piece of this. This is clearly going to be some sort of sanctions violation. Yes, this is, Kazakhstan's going to absolutely have Putin's head on this deal 100%, and it's just fantasy. Wildberries is looking for affordable warehouses in Kazakhstan, and you guys can see the holes in this. I probably don't need to explain it to you. And just it's not only the banking deals surrounding this whole Wildberries collapse, it is also on the personal level, because we thought it was around 200,000 of these resellers. We find out this morning that it is over 1 million of these resellers that utilize all of these Wildberries logistics, all the logistics infrastructure, of course, the website, the traffic, everything. And we found out today that now Wildberries is not only satisfied to not pay for all of the inventory lost by their sellers, but as well as all the cash that all of these resellers have deposited with Wildberries. They're going to keep that as well. And so Wildberries making no friends. And this Russian woman has just been updating every day on her little blog about the ongoing catastrophe there with Wildberries, and she's one of the resellers going broke. A new day, another Wildberries update, she says. Today, Wildberries blocked all sellers from withdrawing money from the platform.
Yeah, so they're not satisfied yet. So entrepreneurs have suffered losses in the fires, including myself. Can't even partially cover their debts using the funds sitting in their Wildberries seller account balances. So Wildberries is now just looting everything that they can now to remain solvent. Starting today, they simply can't withdraw their own money. Thanks a lot, Wildberries. Wildberries making no friends among the Russians, ladies and gentlemen. This is yes, this is going to be, this is just getting better and better every day. And as 26 years of Putin's corruption, really, I mean, this is 26 years, you guys. I mean, they've stolen everything. I mean, some cities no longer have basic sewage. I mean, as Russia just continues to devolve into absolute bedlam, these ongoing catastrophes. And I'll just show you one more. Another casualty of Putin's 26 years of looting and the country spending what remains on failed wars of genocidal expansion, the city of Tyumen, wherein another catastrophe is unfolding in the realm of problems that the rest of the world solved 200 years ago. And this is quite, it's kind of a disgusting story, you guys. And I have a lot of videos I could put up about this today, but it'll make your stomach turn. Apparently there in Tyumen, people have been complaining for a long time about there's a local river in which all these animal carcasses fall due to livestock and everything. And a cheap way to get rid of livestock apparently is just throw them in the river. And yeah, I mean, just that's how they do things over there in Russia. And there's also another area that's somewhat of a distance from this river in which there's open sewage. And apparently these two sources of noxious liquids has somehow joined forces and somehow made it into the local drinking water. And so people have been showering in this, ladies and gentlemen. When you, I mean, everything they do, it's coming from the taps, and it's disgusting to the point where the city's residents are leaving. They're selling their apartments and they're leaving. This has been going on for a few months now. And the city just reeks of a mixture of sewage and dead animals, right? And I'm not making this up. This has been going on for a long time. I just haven't yet covered it. But we've got a little medley of the local residents just talking about the situation that they have. And this is, make no mistake, this is 100% due to, I mean, nothing was upgraded there in Russia. I mean, all this is old, archaic, decaying Soviet infrastructure, because all the money was ever allocated for things like this infrastructure, as we have in civilized nations. Things are always becoming, getting upgraded, sewage treatment plants and all this modernization, so people can live disease-free and all these things. These things didn't happen for the most part in Russia. All that money was stolen, you see. That's why the Russian elite live like absolute golden czars with, of course, Versace skin, crocodile seat, toilet seat covers there for the mistresses over there in Paris. That's why they have those things, because regular people don't have basic drinking water in a lot of places. And here's just some details, just to let you know the extent of Putin's looting over this 26-year period. Resulting from the city's water supply mixing with sewage and river water, residents are leaving after over a month of being forced to shower and drink highly contaminated sludge that emits from taps. And here, they're blaming it on the local government, because it's always, of course, bad boy R's. I mean, this has nothing to do with Putin, of course. No. Putin is the innocent party here. In Tyumen, dead animal carcasses are floating in the Tura River, she says. To be honest, I don't even know who to turn to, this woman says. The respected president, she means Putin. The mayor, I guess, who apparently isn't respected. She put it respected before the president, but not the mayor. I don't know why. And she just cites some local politicians. What is happening with the water in Tyumen? But this is just unbearable now, she says. You turn on the water and you want to throw up, the Russian woman says. And washing, well, you have a wash and sit there smelling of shit, she says. Sorry, this is absolutely unreal, the woman says. The stench here is awful. It reeks of something, as if something died. And there's a picture of a rat there. Tyumen is a complete disaster, another Russian woman says. We've just driven around 5 supermarkets, including the big ones, Auchan, and she names all the Russian supermarket chains, looking for water. There's no 5-liter bottled water anywhere. So people are actually going, I've seen other posts, people are going to other towns to try to buy bottles of water. The water in the vending machines smells now too. It's impossible to drink. And if previously people could simply go and buy water in the shops, now the situation is, well, to put it mildly, really not great. That doesn't sound great at all. And it's unclear what families with children are supposed to do now. Elderly people, those who can't, say, get in the car. They don't have a car. Set off and look for drinking water. And here's another woman. Well, in Tyumen, it's been good, but we're leaving for Kurgan. So now they're leaving the city. for another city. We've packed our things, the laundry and bottles, to stock up on clean water at my parents' house. That's it, guys. Thanks. It's impossible to stay here in this stench, the Russian woman further laments. What really finished me off was that there's no water in the shops. There's a Monetka, it's a Russian shopping chain there, in our building. And we have no drinking water, no 0.5 liters, no 1.5 liters, no 2 liters, no 5-liter bottles. There's simply no water. So they're having to leave the city because you can't have basic, the sewage. Even in places like, you go to like India, I don't know, everyone figured this out except for the Russians. Dead fish are floating in the river, she says, a cow and a roe deer. And there's pictures of carcasses floating in the river. There, the water smells so bad that in some areas of Tuman, people can't even. And anyway, she just says what the other woman says, and this is one of the local politicians. They're blaming it all on him. But you see, when these local politicians steal, they're required to then give most of that money up to the top, and then whoever that is, that parliament member then has to give it to Putin's inner circle. It's a mafia structure. So when they blame the local politician or he goes to jail for stealing, you have to understand that that is a bad boy R's good czar situation, ladies and gentlemen. This is not. This is Tuman. This is way out here, way past the Ural Mountains, just to give you an idea. And so, even the sections of Russia that are not being bombed by Ukraine are being bombed by Putin's corruption. Ukraine hasn't even. Actually, we did reach Tuman the other day. We hit an oil refinery in Tuman the other day. So they look out the window and they see burning Russian oil infrastructure, as well as the stench of carcasses. Things are not going well in Russia, ladies and gentlemen. Slowly becoming clear to Russians that Putin intends to pass everyone in the country through his corpse grinder in Ukraine, the largest bank in Russia, now accompanying any transaction with Ministry of Defense documents. A Russian woman complains about eventually having to become worm food in a Ukrainian trench for the gargoyle midget czar. And here she is, just complaining. She just went to change some money in the bank and deposit it, put it on her card. And of course, she then had to fill out a little note for the Ministry of Defense. They are just really just trying to track and trace everyone right now, because they are, as you know, in September, there's going to be a massive mobilization of at least 500,000 people. And she just says, what, is this normal? I'm a 20-year-old girl, and I went to the bank. And she has this document for the application to the head of the military recruitment center. I was at Sberbank, she says, the largest bank in Russia, just exchanging some small change. I wanted to put it on my card or just change it. Currency, or rather in smaller denomination. When I handed the money over, they gave me this form. I haven't signed anything. I just read later that it needs to be sent to the Russian Ministry of Defense to be entered into the Unified Bank Details database and passed on. And we've heard this at everything from adoptions agencies, banks, grocery stores, everywhere, anywhere that you want to do anything now. They are tying it all into the Russian Ministry of Defense, that they get your name, your information, and then you can maybe get recruiters that show up at the door to drag you off when the time comes. And women are not exempt from this. Has anyone else been given this apart from me? And this is not the only one that we have seen lately. It's just everywhere that the Russians go now. The gargoyle midget czar is building it into a massive conduit. And women can absorb, Ukrainian artillery just the same as men. So why would, in this little bastard's thinking, why would women be exempt from this? And when you realize that Putin is merely a serial killer that managed to get in control of a country, things begin to make sense. And now, having killed his way into a corner, he relies on the continuation of this war to stay in power. So what Putin needs to do is he needs to keep this war going as long as possible. And he even says it here himself. And this is... he laughs when he says this, you guys. Just look into his eyes and understand what Putin is for just 1 second. He says, once the SMO is over, that's a special military operation, what are we going to do? And he laughs. Everyone's gotten so caught up in it, he says. Watch it again. Look at this guy's face. Killing is what he gets off on, you guys. This reminds me of when they, the serial killer Richard Ramirez, the in quotes, Night Stalker there in Los Angeles, late 1970s, early 80s, I believe. These are the kind of responses and the same facial expressions when they were asking him about all the people that he'd killed. All these serial killers, this is it. Do you see any difference? Just go on YouTube and look up all these serial killers when they were confronted with their crimes. You see exactly this. And I just wanted to point that out. He's a serial killer that got, he basically got lucky and got, he was able just to kill enough people to get it into a position of power, and just happened to have, 80 years of stockpiled military gear and a bunch of oil refineries to inflict one of the great tragedies of human history. And good news on the American front. The U.S. Senate advanced Lindsey Graham's Russia sanctions bill by an 86-12 vote. This legislation would impose 100% secondary tariffs on countries that continue buying Russian oil and gas, and as well as targeting Russia's shadow tanker fleet and a number of other measures. This is the famed bill. The now has become sort of Lindsey Graham's, the senator that died just about, 10 days ago. The Republican senator there in the U.S. It's sort of his legacy now. This bill, they were branding it I believe it was called the Sanctions from Hell bill or something. He's been promoting this for about the past year, and it looks like they've got one more procedural vote in the Senate, and then it'll of course go over to the House of Representatives before going on to the White House. All this is supposed to happen before, I believe, August 3rd or 8th, and President Zelensky was in the building and watched the vote from the visitors gallery. And this is just more good news, topping off a series of really great meetings from everyone I'm talking to here in Kyiv, in terms of what was accomplished by this series of meetings there in Washington, D.C. Zelensky has just arrived in Poland as of a couple hours ago, meeting now with the Polish president, trying to sort out some things there. Hopefully it goes as well as what happened in Washington. And one of the very productive meetings, as far as what I'm hearing right now, was what happened yesterday there in D.C. More bad news for Russia as President Zelensky continues meetings with top U.S. defense manufacturing heads in Washington. Imagine you're looking at this from the Kremlin, you guys. I mean, this is Lockheed Martin. I mean, they make everything from HIMARS, ATACMS, F-16s, Patriot missiles, and you just have to remember that Raytheon was here in Kyiv just last week, meeting with the prime minister. So, I mean, look, these are the two largest defense manufacturing companies, and it looks like Ukraine's got their hands all up in this now. Here with Lockheed Martin, one of the world's leading defense manufacturers and a producer of HIMARS, ATACMS, F-16s, aircraft, as well as Patriots. Discussed today was the expansion of cooperation through joint production, technology sharing, and the development of new defense capabilities. And here he is, the guest of honor among the bigwigs of this is the elite of course, the U.S. Defense manufacturing sector, bringing Ukraine's practical experience and unique battlefield developments together with America's own technological manufacturing base. And I can't imagine what is going through the head of that little gargoyle and midget bastard there in the Kremlin, you guys. I mean, he wanted a subjugated Ukraine. He wanted to genocide it and then move in and call it Russia. And now he's got Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, and Ukraine's own domestic manufacturing. I mean, Firepoint wasn't a thing before this war, you guys. Just nightmare after nightmare now. And Zelensky has become Trump's favorite, according to German publication Bild. This is out about 2 hours ago. In Washington, the Ukrainian president has already acted not as a supplicant, but as a strategic partner. And this is due to, I guess, some intelligence sharing that apparently Trump has now been convinced that Ukraine's intelligence does have the upper hand in terms of knowing what the heck these Iranians and Russians are doing in terms of targeting U.S. bases and troops. Russia giving Iran help in terms of doing that, of course. He gave Trump intelligence on possible Russian assistance from Iran, once again called for the provision of Patriot systems to Ukraine, and also discussed the possible arrival of special representatives to prepare new peace talks. And apparently, Witkoff and Jared Kushner are going to slither here into town in the next couple weeks, is what they're saying now. And I don't know. I mean, anytime you kick over a rock and you find Witkoff under there, or Kushner, I don't know. It's nothing good ever follows that, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not too optimistic on getting those guys here in town. But it's good. They're not only visiting Moscow, they had like 9 trips to Moscow. So, I mean, okay, it can't be that bad as far as the general range of things that could happen. And just a face here of Mr. Zelensky. And that is right after some serious meetings. And I just commented, seems that things went well. And that I know Zelensky pretty well in terms of his facial expressions when he is, when his eyes are smiling and when he's just faking it. And this is a happy man. And apparently a lot of good business was done yesterday there at the White House. And even Trump looks like he's a little, ladies and gentlemen, strange things are happening amid this golden orgy behind him of I don't know. Was all that stuff there before Trump? I don't think it was. That's just a crazy amount of gold. And okay, so darker note. We're ending this podcast on a positive note, and sometimes on a dark note. Maybe 1 out of 10 is a dark note. But last Friday, a colleague of mine, as well as a friend of mine, is my friend Igor. His wife was killed in a Russian missile attack here in Kyiv. He's a very good man. You look him up, Igor Solovey. He runs a lot of stuff. He's a very good guy. He devotes his life to all the positive things, all the things that, many of us aspire to in terms of stamping out the evil that is the Russian hell state. And his wife was killed, and she was an amazing woman. You guys, you never met her. And it is just tragic. And she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when the Russians decided to send a ballistic missile out there to the outskirts of Kyiv, and 9 other people were killed. And they just went ahead and had a big service, and they had to pay for this and everything. And I'm just giving you his PayPal information here. And my friend Jason went ahead and put out a lot of you guys follow Jason, a good friend of mine, and he was just aiming to do exactly what I'm doing. If you guys see fit to PayPal him some extra cash, just let him know, just say it's, Jay told me about this or whatever, put a note in there so he's not surprised. But I know a lot of you guys are really generous, and they had a big service. You can look it up. And she was a very good woman, you guys. And this is just one of those tragic things. I mean, we would talk about a lot of things. She was just really, really, really cool. And we would most often be talking about Italy for some reason. But yes, this is one of the tragedies, you guys. And there is Igor's PayPal. He runs the Ukraine Center for Strategic Communications, countering Russian disinformation. And his PayPal is solevey.ihor@gmail.com. solevey.ihor@gmail.com. If you in any way want to help them out with these funeral expenses. And she's leaving behind small children, and of course a husband, and all the nightmares that you can imagine that Russia inflicts on people. And that's, sorry to end on a dark note, you guys, but I had to say it. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. But overall, a lot of good things are happening. Yes, but the bad things are in the mix as well. So that's all I got for you today, you guys. All right, have a good one.